Well, greetings. Thank you for joining us for week number 29 of the weekly financial roundtable for schools. We're glad you joined us. Remember, money's not the most important thing in life, but it is reasonably close to oxygen on the gotta have it scale. So I'm Tom Kuhn from Qnity. We're here to help you create greater prosperity, and we also are the creators of a new course called Money by Qnity, which is financial literacy and success training for students that will help them go from a state of confusion, overwhelm, and complexity to a clearer path towards great prosperity as they enter this wonderful pro beauty industry. We follow an approach that's simple, visual, and actionable. And remember to prosper, manage your ATM. This is our version of return on investment. ATM stands for attention, time, and money. And we want to thank you for joining us today. We realize that your time is precious, so we thank you for spending it with us today. Last week's guest was Sam Briccato. A great session by Sam as usual. Awesome insights. It is stored in on our YouTube channel. Sam is one of the many contributors to these roundtables that we refer to as a brain trust. Mark your calendar, Sunday, May 15th in Scottsdale. We'll have a celebration of light bulb moments where we'll celebrate all the people that contributed, which will be over a 2-year period on these roundtables, which now between the school and the salon roundtable, I think we have officially crossed, we crossed the number 100, I think about 5 weeks ago. So anyway, light bulb moments is what we're looking for. Today, Erin Kuhn of Qnity is going to take us through a session on the gaps, which I think you'll enjoy. It's called a gap analysis. It's a methodology of ours that helps small businesses, including schools, create greater breakthroughs to create greater prosperity. It is based upon what we refer to as a visual operating system at Qnity called 5 functions. So hopefully you'll get some light bulb moments today and some new things will connect and fire and wire in your brain today. Again, YouTube channel is the place to find previous episodes, excuse me. Shout out to our sponsors at Pivot Point, our partners in the money course that we created and they host. Again, financial literacy training. This module is a very rich curriculum that helps students prepare for a more prosperous career in pro beauty, covering most of the essential things that are needed in a financial literacy curriculum. We hope you'll become a money school. If you're not already, you can go to qnityforschools.com to book a demo. Also, shout out to Lightheart Sanders. I think we might have both Lightheart and Sanders with us today, but I thought I saw Lightheart on the earlier session today, so maybe he's double dipping today. It must have been a good session, Erin, if he's coming back. But anyway, we appreciate these guys, and they do amazing work as they help schools really get through a lot of the complexity and the needs related with compliance. And I know that they're passionate about things like benchmarking, et cetera. So these guys are awesome, and we appreciate them being sponsors. So let's move on. Let's see if you get some light bulb moments today. The 9 grid is one of our core visual thinking tools that is available for participants. 9 grid will allow you to mind map, storyboard, or create a step-by-step of your insights today and your light bulb moments. So, all right, Erin, let's get you present and accounted for. How are you?
I'm great. Nice to be back with you. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you great. Yep.
Awesome. Nice to see the team from Lightheart Sanders again. I know I saw you guys this morning, so it's good to have you back.
So Erin, my role today is just to follow your instructions on when to advance the slides and occasionally kick in a thought or two, but this is your show. So you're going to do a gap analysis, which this is going to be new to many of these schools.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this process. So for those of you, go ahead, because it'll really help me to frame this by knowing what role each of you are. So if you could just type in the chat box, and I'm going to make sure I've got this on the screen. I'd really love to know each of your roles. because I'll frame this conversation accordingly. So tell me, are you a director? Are you an owner? Are you in client success? Are you an instructor? So if everyone could just quickly type in the chat box, this is going to be unlike other roundtables in the sense that this is going to be quite interactive. And what I want you to do is actually use this time to really reflect on your own business, on your own operating system. Hi, Diane. Good to have you in here. So it'll really help you to reflect. And again, you'll look at this from different angles. So just apply this to you in whatever way that you can, knowing that we've got quite a few different roles. Hey, Michael, good to see you back. So the gap analysis, this is something that we have done in the professional space for years. It's always our entry point when we work with any client. We really assess these 5 gaps so we can make the best recommendations accordingly. So we're actually going to be going through that process today. And this is really based off our 5 functions operating system, which is really a highly simple, a highly visual operating system for small businesses and beauty and wellness space to manage operations around. So of course, there's always elements of customization. So this will be super impactful. So Tom, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. And really, the point of what we're doing today is really to turn chaos into clarity. So, if we look at these squiggles, all the noise, all the things going on, instructors calling in sick, various different things that you have to deal with every single day is to provide a laser focus to help you to continue to drive and get greater confidence and clarity. Go forward, please, Tom. All right, here are these 5 gaps. So again, really, whatever lens that you're looking from, I really want you to apply these to your own role. And, I see someone who is, who might be in an instructor role. And if that is the case, all of these you might not be able to properly rate. So just do the ones that you can to the best of your ability. Now, the 5 gaps, again, these are really the 5 critical areas that we see most small businesses struggle with on any given day. And so if we can really assess these gaps and have you guys see where you are today and where you want to go, that's really the vision for this interactive session today. You can go ahead, Tom. Let's go deeper into what we mean specifically by each of these gaps. So the first one is overall engagement. And what we mean by engagement is the overall engagement of your staff. Okay, so, or if you're looking at this and if you're in an instructor role, and this would be the overall engagement of your peers and your fellow team members, or you could even look at this, the engagement of your students, right? So take this however you want to apply it, but usually when we're looking at this from a small business, it is looking at your staff. So the reality is we know, at least for salons and spas, hiring talent in schools, it's keeping and retaining instructors is incredibly challenging right now. So we know that the majority of US workers are disengaged. This is a very widely credited study from Gallup that says 71% of US workers are disengaged or essentially clock watchers, right? Now, we also know that we're in a human capital crisis, right? So there's a study by Prudential that said over 60% of workers are actively thinking about quitting their jobs. So this is a huge thing that we should always be focused on. But I want you to really think, and from whatever lens you're viewing this, is to rate the overall engagement of your staff. If you're in an instructor position, maybe rate the overall engagement of your students. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the engagement of your staff or students on a scale of 1 to 10? So you can see this worksheet that Tom's put up here. You can just write this with a pen and paper, but I actually want you to engage in the chat what you decided to rate yourself at. So for overall staff engagement or student engagement, scale of 1 to 10, and 1 means it's completely terrible. 10 means it's excellent, no room for improvement. So I'd love to see some ratings in the chat box.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could get you to participate. It's awesome to see how people go through this exercise, Erin. So use the chat, guys. There we go.
5 to 6, awesome. So a couple more ratings. Staff is 7, students is 6. Awesome, thank you, Michael. Would love to have a couple more. But really, as you look at this process, your staff and your overall engagement, if you had to look at that rating that you just gave yourself, what is one thing that you would need to do today to move that 1 to 2 points up? one thing that you need to do today. And so again, the intent of this session is really not for me to tell you the answers, is really for you to kind of step back and really internally reflect, because oftentimes we know what we need to do, we just need to do it. So really reflect, what is one thing that you know with your engagement needs to change to move that up a couple points? Diane and Michael, I'd love to hear your one thing. One thing that needs to change.
Yeah, we did this morning and we got some really great comments.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember some of them.
Yeah, accountability. Yeah, we had a very large group this morning, so we got some really, really interesting. Diane's thinking, all right, I won't put you on the spot. Incentives.
Incentives, yeah.
Incentives. Okay. So accountability and incentives. So we're going to move to the next one and let's continue this process. So the next one is execution. And this is a huge one. And, you know, I always say it's like the least sexy of the gaps. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be told, you know, the gap in their business is they just need to execute. But the reality is this is one where we see the majority of our customers, regardless of how sophisticated their operations are, actually really, really struggle with. And there's a study that analyzes kind of the top 13% of companies that really succeed. And it really boils down to execution. They did a survey that assessed these businesses that found out 87% of companies, while they may have an amazing vision, an amazing strategy, the resources in place, for some reason, 87% of companies actually fail to execute. So this is a universal struggle in business. And it's uniquely challenging for small businesses, I would say. Particularly, I would say, you know, it really all businesses, I would say here, but let's actually have you rate yourself on execution. And again, you're going to think about this through a few different frameworks based on where you stand. But if you are the owner, I'm not asking you to personally say how good you are at executing. I really want you to think of how good are you at executing through your management team or your director level, if you have one, and then through the rest of your staff. So this would be business execution. So we got a 7, we got a 6. So sounds like everybody's got some room for improvement. Diana, 7. And you guys, I know a lot of you on these calls, and this is what's so fascinating about this. All of you, for the most part, what I know, have incredible businesses, right? So this is always something that needs to be worked on. Now, what is the one thing that needs to change? 1 to 2 words or a quick brief sentence that needs to change to take your execution up 1 to 2 points. Just do it, right? You know, a lot of times people say, I just have to do it. I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. That's not always that simple, right? Accountability, huge one. Communication. Thank you, Kevin. COVID away. Yeah, I mean, that certainly does not help with anyone's execution. And personal follow-up. Okay, excellent. Thank you, guys. Next slide, please. Tom, this is actually quite a specific metric for salons that we probably should have changed here for schools. And we've got some really great people from Lightheart Sanders that probably have, you know, even better data on the profitability of a school business. But Tom, when we ask them to rate their overall profitability of the business, is there anything you want to say here for schools?
No, I don't think so. I think it's really a function of what their own goals are, you know.
Yeah.
And is their profitability where they want it to be, or is there a gap there? So
you can advance the slide because that would not be a relevant statistic for you, but really looking at your own profitability for your school. And again, you know, some of you tuning in might not be incredibly privy to the profitability. So you can just say NA if you want to skip this one. But for those of you that know, and again, this also might be private, so you don't necessarily have to rate it if you don't want to, but really think about what is the profitability of your business on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 terrible, 10 excellent. And I won't put anyone on the spot here to type that in the chat. But when we go to what is the one thing that needs to change to move the needle on profitability, what is one thing that needs to change to move the needle on your overall profitability?
Yeah, I'm curious to see a response on this one. Yeah. Higher sales, lower expenses, maybe, huh?
Cost controls. Kevin and the team at Lightheart, I'd be curious what you know, given your work every single day, I'm curious what you would say if you had to look at the bulk of your school customers, what would you say is one thing that you see as the biggest thing your schools need to do differently? Again, that's putting you on the spot, but if you could just improve systems and keeping good steps. Fewer drops of students, Diane, awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next is leadership. Now this one, again, if you are an owner, I want you to, well, there's a couple ways you can frame this. Usually when I ask larger businesses this, I ask them to look at it from their leadership team. So this would not just necessarily be you as a leader, but the ability of your leadership team. And I love this study because I think it's such a good reminder that the way we actually think we're being perceived isn't always the way we are actually being perceived, especially when it comes to leadership. So this was a study from the Leader's Voice that surveyed really amazing companies and asked them to rate themselves at how strong or effective they were at leadership and communication. 87% rated themselves as strong or effective. They surveyed back their staff, and 17% of their audiences actually agreed with that self-assessment. So obviously right there is a major gap in the way leaders might think they're leading and the way they actually are being received as leading. And so this is really a great time for you to really think internally, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how am I serving as a leader? And if you can rate yourself in that, but also I'd want you to think about your leadership team, if you have opportunity to bring in stronger leaders or develop stronger leaders. So you can choose how you want to rate this one, but Tom, if you want to go ahead to the next slide. Kevin is an 8, awesome. So then as you're thinking through this one, I want you to think through also what needs to change to have stronger leadership. What needs to change? One thing.
Yeah, communication is an interesting one, Erin, because communication is more about the recipient as opposed to the person delivering.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why that statistic, this one, so it is a little bit amusing here that there's such a gap. And I've seen this in person. In workshops, I've asked people to raise their hands, and oh yeah, I'm a great communicator. I'm a great communicator, and you know, it ends up being about 90% of people in the room, and then show this, and you know, it causes a bit of a pause. So
yeah. Communicate expectations and systems to track progress, right? So, you know, some of the things when we ask these questions, a lot of times we really know the answers, and these aren't necessarily revolutionary answers, right? Communicating expectations, we all kind of know we need to do that, right? Consistent training, of course, we all know we need to do that, but somehow there's a gap, right? Somehow the gap continues to open up. So if you're not cognizant of it, you know, it's something that we need to work on every single day in our businesses. And when we go through this process, just because you rate yourself something today, it might not stay the same, or it might not, you know, be the exact same rating in a week, because stuff changes, business evolves, it's quite fluid. So looking at the next one is growth. And so, you know, I would say for you guys, everyone on here has slightly different lenses of looking at this, but the statistic that we show here is very specific to salon. But I do think this is relevant for you, for those of you who have clinic floors, and for those of you who are thinking about producing students that are going to be entering the workforce, and frankly are going to be compensated, and their livelihood is going to depend on their ability to grow sales, really is what it comes down to, right? They've got to learn how to build a client count and increase their average ticket through retail and service offerings. So what we have found through 3 different beauty industry statistics that all really boil back down to this 71% number. And it says 71% of clients do not return for a second visit. 71% of clients are never offered a product, and 71% of salon hours go unsold. So on average, if you think of your average stylist or service provider, they are missing 71% of sales opportunities. That means the business is missing 71% of sales opportunities. So the only statistic here that has probably changed since COVID is the salon hours being gone unsold. And Tom, you might have, I know you did a video training on that recently, but we still really like to showcase this statistic because it does just illustrate the magnitude of missed opportunities in this industry. And it really, I believe, goes back down to a lack of training and expectations, right? So for you guys in schools and really producing the next generation of these future team members, future employees, future service providers, they've got to really know from the get-go how they're going to actually make money. and how they're going to grow sales, because the business that they work for is also going to be really impacted by this. So as I ask you this question again, I know you're all looking at this from different lanes, but how would you rate your team's ability to reach their total sales potential? So I know that that's kind of, it might be a shift in mindset depending on what metrics you're moving. But at the end of the day, Michael says 7. Okay, awesome. So, and when you think about this too, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and start to think about the one thing that needs to change. And if you're looking at this from a clinic floor too, that might be relevant for you, Diane. 10. Okay, so 10, you rate them that they're reaching their full revenue potential. That's amazing. Okay, so one thing that needs to happen to take them closer to a 10, or take them one to 2 points up when it comes to sales potential and growth.
Diane's case, go to 11 or 12.
Yeah, Diane, you got no room. No more sales for you, I guess. All right, so think about the one thing that needs to change when it comes to growth.
Yeah, price increase comes to mind right away here. We're in such an inflationary economy. That's just one,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I think we've stumped some of the rest of the group. So let's continue the process here. And maybe you missed it. Oh, I see. Yep, Diane, I'm sorry. That wasn't super clear. It's really, where are they at today in their full sales, reality, right? At reaching what is possible. So where are they at today is what I specifically meant. Today is 6. Okay, got it. Thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Diane.
All right, so I just took you through our standard gap analysis that we really walk through with all businesses to really begin the dialogue. And it's from our Qnity in Action coaching program that we do with businesses all over, I would say all over the North America, but we also have some we have one in Scotland too. So hello to our friends from the UK as well here. But Tom, if you want to advance the next slide. So if you populate this, you can have a visual. This is our visual thinking tool called the 5 Functions Planner. And it's almost like a simple one-page operating system, a visual operating system to look at your business in one lens with all of the different functions of your business. So imagine you've got a big map in front of you or a big map on the wall. That's how we actually deliver this process. And so Tom, if you want to go through the next slide, this is what it looks like complete when we have leadership teams complete this. So on the far left-hand side, that is actually what I just had you do in like a crash course today, is give yourself a rating, say the one thing that needs to happen to move it closer to a 10. Then with your leadership team, and this is really the fun process, we have you define a visual theme. Part of who Qnity is and our DNA is using both visual and text to get greater results. Then we go into our 5 functions operating system, and the 5 functions are marketing, education, human capital, operations, and finance. And so for schools, we really work with you to kind of figure out which areas fall under marketing, right? Like, where does admission support fall in, all of that good stuff, and really help you define those functions. And then we get very specific. What are 3 to 4 things that need to happen? When do they need to happen by? Who is ultimately responsible for them? And how will we measure it? And one of the things that we find in a lot of small businesses is the owner or the key leader, their name pops up way too much on the who, right? We had one client where she was the owner and she had, I think, 25 team members and her name was everywhere. And it's like, no, if we really want to get you to the next level, we've got to loop in other leaders. We've got to create greater accountability. And this really helps you really to visualize the way the business operates. It's incredibly powerful. And so I just kind of, again, took you through that very first portion of this process. And Tom, you can go ahead. So I've got one more question for you. Tom, if you want to populate them up well, that's fine. We can leave them here.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. So what you're looking at here is, again, there's a lot of Qnity-ism, so to speak, right? And Qnity principles that really permeate everything that we do in all of our curriculums, in all of our education, and in all of our coaching, and really the way we approach business. And we have 5 core principles that we really teach and layer in on everything that we do, and the way our courses and programming is really built off of. So I'm going to take you through each of these, and I want you just to step back and really reflect and say, okay, which one of these would make the biggest impact on my business today? Or which of these am I really craving as an owner? And I'm going to tell you very specifically what I mean by each of them. Of course, they're quite self-explanatory in nature, but I'll give you a little bit more specific. So the first two are really very foundational to who Qnity is, and that's simple and visual. So starting with simple, simple just means the need to make things simple. We know that companies that simplify outperform their competitors by 99%, according to the Global Brand Simplicity Index. So making things simple and having simplicity in your business model is incredibly impactful. It's also very, very hard to do. It's very hard. There's a lot of complexities in business, right? So the ability to make everything simple is incredibly impactful. So that would be number one. Number two would be the need to go visual. And the way what we mean by going visual is the majority of people that we work with in the beauty and wellness industry identify as visual learners. Now, neurologically and inherently, we are visual beings, right? Why do you think Instagram blows up? Why do you think TikTok? I mean, we learn through visuals, and they're more attractive to the eyes, right? So when you're communicating admissions, when you're communicating employee benefits or coaching to the numbers, how can you leverage visuals to more effectively communicate your message versus just sending an email or using primarily text-based communication? Same with your customers. Next would be the need to implement small steps for big results. So there's a beautiful practice called Kaizen, which really embodies this process of having very, very big goals, but breaking them down to micro steps to enable you to take small steps with consistency that actually leads to larger results in the end. So the ability to break things down into small steps would be number three. Number four, let me know if you agree with this statement. Creative people both crave and resist structure simultaneously. I don't know if you found that true. I found that true with many people that I've worked with. And Michael says, yes, absolutely. So the reality is structure actually can feel quite restrictive to some people unless it's reframed, that structure actually enables freedom. Structure actually creates freedom. So this is a really, really powerful practice. Lastly, and this is another foundational element to who Qnity is the need to go from knowing to doing. So this is all about action. And so even in my session today, right, is how can you apply this to you? And I hope that, and I'm going to give you hopefully some actions after this, but the need just to actually do, right? You know what you need to do. You just need to do it. So which of these jump out as the most important for your business right now? Is it making things simple? Is it leveraging visuals? Is it breaking stuff down into small steps? Adding structure, or just going from knowing to doing? Would love to hear which one jumps out the most to you. We had a lot of simples on the last one. We had a lot of people say simple. Knowing to doing. Awesome, Diane. Thank you. Anyone else? Visual and structure. Michael, I thought you'd say structure because of your big yes. You know, it's funny which ones kind of jump out at us at any given moment. And again, just like the gap analysis, right? If I were to ask you this next week, the one that really stuck out to you might change. It's always evolving. So doing, awesome. Thank you, Kevin. So this is a really valuable practice for you to really think through and have this conversation with your leadership team and your peers too about this process. Now, Tom, if you want to go to the next slide. Actually, let me close this up. I did just realize that was the last slide. So I want you to think about, before I turn this back to Tom, is the lowest score that you gave yourself for the gaps. The lowest score, go ahead and type it in, whichever one you said. You can go ahead and type it into the chat. I think some of you, on the last episode, it was a lot of people said growth. 6. So which gap was it though? So which gap was it that you rated yourself the lowest? Was it execution? Was it growth, leadership, profitability, or engagement? And you can type that in, but I also really want you to think about whatever gap you rated yourself the lowest on and whatever success principle really connected with you most. I want you to actually apply that success principle to the gap to see what you can do today to move the needle on that. So for example, if you said execution was the lowest, and structure was the principle that really connected with you, how can you add structure to better execute, right? And vice versa. So hopefully this was actionable, you guys. really, really loved to be here with the school team today. So thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions, I will be on here.
Well, thank you, Erin, for being our guest today. A very actionable session. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I don't have $1 million light bulb. I've got it because I'm in a new space today, but I got a purple light bulb for you. So it's a special one.
All right, I'll take it.
This whole going through this exercise of the gaps does lead us to an event we have coming up in Scottsdale on this Sunday night. I've already mentioned that we're going to have a celebration of light bulb moments, all the light bulb moments that have happened over the last couple of years. And then we're going to lead right into our conference called The Fill, which very much is about filling these gaps that Erin went through. All our coaches are going to be there. Most of our educators, a lot of our clients. So it's going to be very workshop and interactive driven. So definitely, if you're looking to narrow the gaps in those areas that Erin went through today, this is an opportunity to be part of a community of others that also want to do the same thing. So there's also an opportunity at that event to fill your bucket. So fill the gaps, fill your bucket. And again, that also is going to have a Sunday night event, which is going to be a fundraiser for Beauty Changes Lives. And we're going to be awarding golden light bulbs. So registration is open for that. We hope you'll be a money school. You can go to qnityforschools.com to book a demo. We're growing our team. If you know of anybody that's in the areas of client success and account executive, et cetera, we're always looking for referrals. We're growing our team like many of you are. So anyway, we're glad you joined us today. We hope you had some light bulb moments. We are on next week, and then we're off February 9th and February 23rd, I think, 2 Wednesdays later this month. But we appreciate you joining us today, and we hope you have a great rest of the week, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks again. Bye now.